art is conscience. Like, I had no idea on the Barclays thing. The monopolization of power, the veins go all the way back to a very few amount of beating hearts, and it's very hard to just operate your life in general free of that. It's really cool that artists were able to flex in that way. The separation of art and artist, I think, has always been a very challenging thing. Not a massive Pantera fan in the first place, put it that way.
Primordial Radio.
Download 2024. Surprise, surprise, surprise. Winston McCall from Parkway Drive.
Kind of rhymes, doesn't it?
What an unexpected surprise. Why are you here?
Why are we here?
Yeah.
You sounded very much like Larry David saying that. Oh, I mean, we got an opportunity to play a secret set. It's rare that you get that, man.
Well,
let alone download. Yeah.
But it's but it's not like all of a sudden this was sprung on you last week. It's like this is how long have you known?
I mean, it wasn't a surprise to us.
No. But do you know the definition of a surprise, right? It's a secret. Yeah. So your post this morning on Facebook, that wasn't, you kind of gave the shit away.
Yeah, but you kind of got to let people enjoy it a bit. I mean, we held on to it for quite some time. Considering how long we've known, I think we did a good job of keeping this secret.
Because it's an interesting topic, because in this day and age, I mean, you can't go anywhere, and everybody's got a camera, they're tracking you and following you, and all of a sudden it's like if you just showed up, you're a fairly recognizable character in this community, going, oh, Vincent McCall's here, what's going on there?
What are you doing here? Yeah, it was good. When I saw there was the dailies or something in the UK going, I think Paramore's it. I was like, no one knows anything. This is awesome.
Well, a guy on Friday goes, hey, my mate is Andy Copping's mechanic. It's the Foo Fighters.
My mate is Andy Copping's mechanic's best friend who makes the burgers down the corner. He swears. Yeah.
It's definitely the Foo Fighters. I saw Dave Grohl over there.
Solid gold. Put your bet on the Foo Fighters. Yeah. No.
So, have you heard about the Barclays sponsorship thing that's been going on here? Have you heard about that? Okay, that is what it is. So, people always want to be Winston, and be an endorser of this or whatever it is, be a patron of this. Do you have a pretty strict vetting policy? How do you go through that? Because all of a sudden you may be associated with, they're into modern slavery. I didn't know that or something. Do you know what I mean? Does that ever happen?
It actually hasn't. And to be honest, it's fucking nuts seeing the whole thing pop up. Well done for everyone doing what they've done to bring things to people's attention. And I love watching people stand by the convictions. That's the thing. Popped up and it's like, oh, damn. And then the next day I was like, oh, something happened from it. Awesome. It's rad watching people stand up for their beliefs, and you do what you can. That's the thing, you do what you can, and I think it's very hard to look away from human suffering, full stop. That's it. Just human suffering in general is terrible to behold, especially in a world where it doesn't have to happen.
And you talk about, well done for the power of the people, but we're talking massive institutions like Live Nation and Barclaycard. They're not rinky-dink little companies. No. So, and I guess no matter who you get in bed with, do you find it a bit unnerving that if you really scratch below the surface just a little bit, you could probably find some link in this cesspool in which we operate?
Yes.
And so is there a vetting process?
I'm not, to be honest, no. For us, there hasn't really been a vetting process. And it's a really interesting one and a difficult one to deal with, because the world is so, like you said, you scratch below anything, and you can trace so much back to a very small amount of individuals and a very small amount of power. And I think it says something about society in general. That's why I was so impressed that this worked, and that there was a reaction, A, from the artists, and B, that there was a result from it, because these are massive, there are massive powers at play in general in the world, and everything comes back to them. Every fucking thing in our lives has been the monopolization of power. The veins go all the way back to a very few amount of beating hearts, and it's very hard to just operate your life in general free of that.
Well, remember Pearl Jam taking on Ticketmaster, and that was,
that's it. Exactly, man. It's just difficult. As an artist, it's difficult. But that being said, it's difficult for every single person. It really is. We live. It's. I think one of the things to take note of what's going on at the moment, because there is so much It's very raw. Everything's very raw for people at this point in time. The reality of what's going on in the world in general is at the rawest state it possibly can be, and I'm not just talking about Gaza, I'm just talking about conflict, suffering, full stop, inequality, cost of living, all of these things. Because at the same point in time, people are making fucking money.
Yes, and
people are making
and
money.
The disparities.
And the disparity keeps blowing out. So you're just like, okay, like, why? When you realize that the pyramid gets narrower towards the top, you're like, do you need it? Like, do people need to suffer so you can just have more of what you don't realize is even there? And that's a crazy way for the world to continue operating. And it's very hard to break. It's just very, very hard to disassemble such a complex machine which provides
But you got to have balls to do that, because you are now dealing with the people who are basically in control of a lot of your career. So in order to stand up and go, no, that takes balls. Would you have done that?
Yeah, probably. To be honest, there has been. When I say there's been no vetting, there's been plenty of times in the past where myself or someone in the band's like, no, ain't associated with that. We ain't doing that. That's it. Like, I had no idea on the Barclays thing. Like, that was the thing. It wasn't until it popped up, and then 6 hours later, like, that was when because we've been on tour, and then 6 hours later it was off. I was like, yeah, awesome. That's great.
It is, and it was the speed at which it happens.
Yeah.
And something like that only happens when it comes to a head, and there is an actual decision that has to be made now.
Yeah, that's the thing. And it's really cool that artists were able to flex in that way, and people get behind it. Like, it's interesting. It's very interesting to see that there'd be any kind of pushback behind that, because I have seen people pushing back, and I'm like, what? Like, art is conscience. Like, that's it.
Okay, all right then. So then Pantera's on the Opus stage headlining, last night. So contradiction, hypocrisy, what?
Not a massive Pantera fan in the first place. Put it that way.
But Phil Anselmo, and that incident that we all know. I mean, and he's here.
Yeah.
Well, that seems a bit like, we're doing the right thing. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's Pantera.
That's not for me. That's the thing. Yeah, okay. And it's not like, it's just like, I don't agree with it, but that's just me. That's the thing. And that might be like, it's tough for you to answer, though, isn't it? It's not really. It's tough for me because I understand that everyone is a different individual in terms of what they're willing to. The separation of art and artist, I think, has always been a very challenging thing on different levels for people. Because the same thing goes for, like, you look at Michael Jackson, look at all of these people who've, like, created incredible, like David Bowie, like all of these people who've created art, but that at some point in time they've done something where you're just like, that's f***ed. Like, that's straight up f***ed. But what they've created, you can't get out of your brain, and you can't take out of a time when you were ignorant to what was involved with that person during the creative process, or before or after. And that's a really hard thing to pull apart. Like, it's very different from just going, person's a fucking racist. Like,
well, my dad, my dad, I loved him. He was one of the mainstays of my life.
Yeah.
He's racist? Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But he's my dad, so you know what I mean?
It's a moral quandary, which I think people will wrestle with forever, because the thing with music and art is it is something which, like, you take it in, and if you don't have, like, you can't undo the reaction. Your first reaction, like, if it's taken without the context of, like, say these negative things that have happened around it, the first reaction is just the first reaction. And if that's something which is deep, and then someone's by the way, they did this, it's like your body's already programmed into, like, a degree of that reaction, which is gnarly. Like, that just is. So
I would love to continue this conversation, but we've been given this, so we got to go. I didn't even ask, how are you?
I'm good. Voice, but I'm good. Very good conversation, though. Yeah. I'm really stoked on this. So yeah, it's really cool.
Winston, thank you.
Thank you.
As always.
Primordial Radio.